At Christmas, my daughter-in-law Tessa looked me dead in the face and said, "We're doing Christmas at my mom's. You can stay home." I didn't argue, didn't blink. I just smiled, nodded like a sweet old church lady, and booked a flight. When I posted the beach photos, my phone flat out exploded. Name's Nora. 68. Knees that creak like old floorboards, mouth that still works just fine. I raised my boy Mark on pot roast, grit, and tell the truth or hush. When he married Tessa, high gloss, sharp smile, everything in audition, I kept it cute. I brought pies, played nice, learned her fussy house rules. But every visit I got a little, "Whoops, Nora, we already ate," or "Sorry, just immediate family." "Ma'am, I am the mama." That dog don't hunt. Tradition matters to me. I still hang Mark's crooked crayon star, bless it, every year. Last Christmas, Tessa changed plans at the 11th hour. I swallowed the sting and told myself, be gracious. This year she didn't even pretend. She tossed that line, "You can stay home," like I was a spare chair. I felt the slap, sure. But I've learned, if folks treat you like the doormat, step off the porch and make them eat dust. So I dusted off my passport and snagged a sunshine special. One carry-on, one good hat, and my don't mess with me sunglasses. I left a tidy note on my counter. Gone visiting. Be well, and locked the door like I was locking a chapter. At the airport, I treated myself to a cinnamon roll big as a spare tire and did some soul inventory. The problem wasn't just one holiday. Tessa had been trimming me out of my own family like hangnails. Quiet, snip, snip, smile, snip again. And Mark? Mr. Keep the Peace? Peace, my foot. That was just me eating quiet. On the plane, I scrolled our recent texts, looking for what lived under the polish. Tessa. We're keeping it super intimate this year. Me. Got it. Y'all enjoy, Tessa. We'll swing by after. So busy. Super intimate, huh? Funny. Last time she had 12 people and still called me extra. I screenshotted. Not to be petty, but because slippery folks rewrite history. Evidence doesn't stutter. I tucked the phone away and watched the clouds like they were giving me a pep talk. Landing felt like stepping into warm bread. My little oceanside motel smelled like lemon cleaner and salt. The desk kid said, "Dang, ma'am, solo Christmas?" "That's bold," I grinned. "Sweetheart, I brought the best company. Me." I took a long shower, put on a breezy blue sundress, and let my shoulders drop out of their old armor. Down by the water, the waves were throwing a block party. I snapped a couple soft shots, hat brim, my toes in the surf, that big blue hush, and one of me smiling like I'd finally flipped a switch. Caption: Sunny, safe and fed. Merry Christmas. No tags, no drama, just facts. Baby. My phone went off like a car alarm. Neighbor: Auntie, you glowing? Cousin: Spill. Where are you? Then Mark: Mom, where are you? Tessa's confused. Confused? Bless her heart. Folks get real chatty when the doormat gets legs. I set the phone face down, ordered grilled shrimp, and let butter and lemon fix my insides. While I ate, I pictured Tessa in her mother's living room, working the room like a pageant coach, counting chairs, arranging photos to look casual. I pictured that tight smile slipping when someone said, "Did you see Nora's beach pics? Miss Thing is out here living." That right there? That was my first bite of peace in a long minute. Back in my room, I laid out tomorrow's plan. Beach walk, quiet breakfast, a little nap. Simple. But under that calm, a hotter thought bubbled. I'd spent years asking for scraps from people who weren't even cooking. Maybe I was done asking. Maybe I was ready to flip the whole table. No apologies. I opened my messages again and looked at one more thing. Mark's last check-in from last week. "Mom, can we rain check Sunday? Tessa's swamped." Translation: Tessa says no. I saved it, along with a tidy little screen note. Pattern. I didn't need timestamps all over the place. The habit was the proof. I turned off the lamp, the ocean still whispering through the window, and smiled in the dark. They wanted me quiet. I was about to get loud without raising my voice. Next round, I won't just leave the room. I'll make the room follow me. I didn't become invisible overnight. It was slow-cook petty. Back when Mark first brought Tessa around, she was sugar on the surface. "Nora, your cornbread is iconic." And vinegar underneath. "Maybe next time we skip heavy foods." I laughed it off. Folks get weird when they're trying to control the vibe. But after the wedding, the little cuts kept landing. She'd switch dinner times last minute, forget to add me to the group text, or call me so generous while walking me to the door at 8 like I was a babysitter on a curfew. Cute, right? I tried the long game. I offered help without hovering, learned her aesthetic, brought neutral napkins, even changed my perfume because she said spicy scents upset her seasonal decor. Lord help me, I said okay. Meanwhile, I'd catch her rearranging the family pictures. Mark and Tessa centered, her mama flanking, me shrunken to the side. It wasn't a crime. It was a message. And I read just fine. There were tells. One Sunday, I showed with pot roast and mashed potatoes, Mark's favorite since he had baby teeth. Tessa cracked that pageant smile and said, "Oh, Nora, we just started a no-carb week." But half an hour later, I clocked her cousin posting a plate piled high with dinner rolls in their "It's Giving Cozy" group. I didn't need a calendar or timestamps. I had eyes. Another day, Tessa forgot to tell me about their little game night. I drove past on an errand and saw cars wrapped around the block like Carnival Day. "Sure, sis. Intimate." Mark tried smoothing. "Mom, don't take it personal." "Buddy, it is personal when you erase a person." I kept it polite. Grandmas know how to smile with their back teeth, but I started saving tiny bits. Not to go courtroom on them, just to stop letting my own mind get gaslit. A screenshot of an invite that wasn't sent. A grocery receipt where I bought their baby shower snacks after she swore she covered everything. A selfie from their foyer mirror the night she told me, "We'll catch up next month." We're swamped. Swamped, my foot. The house looked like a magazine. I saw the charcuterie boats. Then there was the nursery thing. I'd sewn a little quilt, simple blues and creams just right for a July baby. Tessa smiled, said cute, then parked it on a shelf behind a plant like it had cooties. 2 weeks later, her Instagram showed a custom heirloom quilt from a fancy boutique, all tagged and praised. In the background, mine peeked out like a forgotten cousin. I didn't cry. I got quiet. There's a difference. I wasn't out to fight in their living room. I prefer strategic weather, slow cloud cover, then thunder where it hits. My church friend Elvira, sharp as a thumbtack, slid a coffee my way and said, "You're not crazy, baby. You're being managed." That word landed. Managed. Like I was a calendar item she could delete. I wasn't built for that. I'm a whole human, not a decorative throw. So I shifted. Bare minimum texting, no chasing, no double calls. When Tessa said, "We're keeping it tight," I answered, "Y'all enjoy." When she said, "We'll drop gifts later," I said, "Do what works." Then I looked up flights and priced freedom like it was a pair of sensible shoes. I wasn't broke, thanks to decades of stacking small and steady. I had an old teacher pension, a paid-off house, and a tidy emergency fund that could mind its manners. Translation, I could move without permission. That little fact? That was my leverage, quiet and simple. Meanwhile, more tells stacked. Tessa texted Mark from across the room and he'd parrot her "we're slammed" line like a voicemail. In the pantry, I found a grocery list with my name spelled Nora. Not a felony, just a tiny itch of disrespect. At the last birthday, she handed me a slice of cake on a napkin while everyone else got plates. "You heard me, a napkin." I took that soft mess, smiled like I didn't notice, and decided I was done passing tests I didn't sign up for. When she dropped the Christmas bomb, "We're doing it at my mom's. You can stay home." I finally understood the game. Shrink Nora, center Tessa, keep Mark compliant. Cool story. I didn't throw a scene. I did something worse in her playbook. I refused the scene altogether. I went where the sun was. I let peace find me in salt air. And I posted those quiet photos like a mirror. Here's me, alive. The buzz that followed told me everything. Tessa didn't want me gone. She wanted me parked and grateful. I wasn't built for that either. Next, I stopped playing polite and start playing precise. I woke up to gulls fussing and my phone still buzzing on the nightstand like it had opinions. I wasn't planning to be messy, just minding my peace, but small tells kept floating to the top like oil. My cousin Denise sent a selfie from Tessa's mother's living room. Balloon arch, champagne flutes, and enough chairs for a town hall. Her caption, family-only Christmas. Family only, my elbow. I zoomed in. There was Tessa's Pilates friend, the realtor from their HOA, even her nail tech holding a gift bag like she'd won a raffle. But sure, Nora is extra. I scrolled a little more and hit a cute one. Tessa's mom, beaming beside my pecan-bars, the same tin I had dropped off last week, for later. The caption said, Tessa baked all morning. No, ma'am. That tin had my church lady sticker on the bottom, a tiny sunflower with, from Nora's kitchen. I saw the corner of it peeking like a tattletale. Not a crime, just a tell.group chat screenshot from Denise, who meant to send it to her sister and fat-fingered me instead. The chat name? Cozy Crowd. Members, a small parade. My name? Nowhere. Up top, a pinned note from Tessa. We're keeping it tight. No drama. Baby, I can read through a wall. No drama is what people say right before they do something shady and want you to swallow it with a smile. I set the phone down, took a breath, and watched a boat crawl across the horizon. No rage, not yet. Just a steady little drum in my chest saying, pay attention, girl. Folks will tell on themselves if you let them talk long enough. Back in messages, I opened a thread with Mark, the one where he'd parroted Tessa's lines. I noticed he'd forwarded me a grocery list last week, asking if I still had my old punch bowl. At the bottom of that same note, Tessa had typed, make sure your mom doesn't drop by. I want it seamless. She must have thought she deleted that line before he sent it. Bless her heart. It was faint, gray, sitting under the list like a watermark. My first solid piece. Not hearsay, not vibes. Right there in pixels. I took a screenshot and slid the phone face down. Evidence doesn't need applause. I dressed simple, soft tee, linen pants, and walked to a little diner down the block. The waitress called me Sweet Pea and filled my mug until it sang. I opened my little notebook and wrote 3 lines. Cut list photo, chairs plus non-family, pecan-bars credited to T, sticker, make sure your mom doesn't drop by, screenshot. No dates, no big detective energy, just a tidy ledger so my brain stayed honest. Halfway through my eggs, Denise called. Real call. Auntie, you good? Her voice was careful, like she knew a truth and didn't know where to set it down. I told her I was sun-kissed and fine. She blurted, Tessa said you didn't want to come. Said you were overwhelmed. I laughed. Not mean, just tired. Baby, I wasn't invited. Silence. Then, real soft, I thought so. Another tell. People outside the little control circle could see it plain as daylight. Good to note. On my way out, I passed a boutique with a tiny window tree. On it hung a handful of blank place cards, white with gold edges. It lifted a memory from last year. Tessa had printed name cards and put me near the kitchen door for easy access, like I was staff. I'd thought it was a fluke. Patterns, Nora. You don't fix a pattern with one nice pie. Back at the motel, I propped the door, let the sea air roll in, and opened my photos. I lined up the 3 proofs and stared until the heat in my chest cooled into something razor straight. I wasn't angling for fair. Fair had left the building with my slice of cake on a napkin. I wanted clean. I wanted undeniable. And yes, sweetheart, I wanted it to sting. Cruel doesn't have to be bloody. It can be precise. I thought of Elvira's word, managed, and realized the counter move wasn't begging for a chair. It was making my own table and then deciding who eats. Not later, now. My phone pinged again. Mark. Mom, can we talk? Tessa thinks there's been a misunderstanding. I could see her behind that text, coaching him like a ventriloquist. I typed back, I'm at the beach. I'll call tonight. Then I waited, because timing is seasoning, and I wasn't about to serve this meal undercooked. I opened my wallet and touched the small photo of 2-year-old Mark gnawing a wooden spoon, cheeks shining with kitchen light. I didn't raise him to be spineless. But grown men choose their weather. Mine would be clear skies with sudden thunder. I closed the door, put on my hat, and headed for the shore, calm as a cat. The current was picking up, and so was I. Time to pull one thread and watch the whole sweater slide. Ready? Because the next pull won't be gentle. Mark picked up on the second ring, voice careful. "Hey, Mom." I could hear room noise, a clink, a hush. Then Tessa slipped in like a stage whisper. "We're both here. Just want to clear the air." Cute. When folks say clear the air, they usually mean fog you up. "I'll go first," I said, easy as iced tea. "You told me I could stay home. I did. Then you told people I didn't want to come." Mark cleared his throat. Tessa chirped. "Nora, that's not what I said. You sounded overwhelmed." There it was, the soft blade. "Sweetheart," I said. I sounded fine. Also, I saw the cozy crowd chat. Dead silence. "Wasn't invited," I added. "And that make sure your mom doesn't drop by note?" That little line hitchhiked on Mark's grocery list. Mark muttered, "Babe?" Like he'd just realized the puppet strings were showing. Tessa rushed in. "That was a draft." "You know how notes are. Messy." "Uh-huh. Drafts aren't pinned to group chats." "And the pecan-bars you said you baked?" I went on, calm as a porch swing. "My sunflower sticker's on that tin in your mama's photo." Tessa laughed too high. "Oh gosh, we must have reused the tin. Sustainable. Bless her heart, she couldn't lie smooth if you handed her butter." "Nora," Mark said, soft. "We didn't mean to hurt you." I let his words hang. "Intent is cheap," I said. "Impact costs." Tessa tried another pivot. "It's just your energy can be big?" I smiled into the phone. "Honey, big is what cooked your husband's childhood dinners and showed up when your movers no-showed. Big is what bought the crib you said was back-ordered." She went quiet like a TV on mute, then hit came, the gaslight full blast. "We invited you weeks ago," Tessa said, steady now, like she'd practiced. "You told me you had other plans. Maybe you forgot." My eyebrow did a sit-up. "I didn't forget because that never happened." "Check your texts," she snapped. "Gladly," I said. We all sat in that dumb group silence while I scrolled. Clean thread, no invite. I read the last few lines out loud, the stay home, the super intimate, the so busy. Mark breathed out, small. Tessa tried one more. "You must have deleted it." "Buddy, if you're gonna gaslight, at least pick a bulb that fits." I didn't need to win the argument. I needed to hear my own voice stay steady. "Here's what's true," I said. "You cut me out and called it no drama. You used my food and put your name on it. You told my son to manage me. That's your pattern. Mine is done being managed." Tessa's tone went tight. "You're being unkind," I chuckled. "No, ma'am. I'm being clear," Mark whispered. "Mom," and my chest pinched, because that boy still lives inside the man. "Son," I said, gentle but steel. "I'm good. Eat your dinner." Tessa pushed for the last word. "So you'll apologize for posting those showy beach photos?" People were asking questions. There it was, the why of her sudden misunderstanding. She thought my joy owed her clearance. "Apologize?" I said, sweet as poison honey. "For sunshine?" "Not today." I ended the call before she could wind up again. Control freaks hate a deadline. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling, letting the anger settle into something with edges. Cruel doesn't have to be loud. Cruel can be clean, like a door that shuts and doesn't open again. But I wanted a sting she'd feel in her perfect posture. I pulled out my little notebook and wrote new lines. Overwhelmed lie on speaker call, 5. Claimed ghost invite, done exists. Ownership theft, pecan bars. Admitted by reused tin story, not for court. For clarity. Every time I've let things slide, I slid with them. No more. I thought about Elvira's phrase, managed, and let a brighter thought land. If someone keeps erasing you, write your name in ink somewhere they can't reach. I had places they couldn't reach. I had my house title clean as a whistle. My retirement. My church scholarship fund I'd been tiptoeing toward. A safe deposit box with a stack of old-school photos and a few letters that would make certain glossy folks itch if they were ever read aloud. And I had a knack for timing. Phone pinged. Denise again. Quick text. You okay? Tessa said you're unstable. I laughed, one dry note. Screenshot saved. Another brick. I packed a tote, sundress, sandals, that blue hat. I booked a small, classy lunch for tomorrow. Private room. Paid in advance. Guest list? Select and spicy. Not a brawl. A mirror. I wasn't gonna throw hands. I was gonna hold up the truth where everyone could see their own face. And then, I'd close a door they didn't even know I owned. Sleep came easy. Vengeance tastes better after a nap. I don't throw tantrums. I set tables. The private room was small and pretty. White cloth, low flowers, a door that closed like a secret. I got there early, tipped the staff, and laid out a few quiet props. The tin with my sunflower sticker, a neat plate of pecan-bars, and 3 little place cards I wrote myself. Truth, pattern, courtesy. Petty? Maybe. Effective? Bet.guest list. Handpicked. Denise, because she slips up, but she's got a good heart. Elvira, because she's steady like a plumb line. My neighbor Ruth, who knows me since Mark learned to ride a bike and can correct a lie with one look. And yes, Mark and Tessa. I sent the invite like it was a normal holiday lunch. Come hungry. No speeches promised, no drama warned. Folks show their true color best when they think it's business as usual. They arrived in twos, like weather fronts. Denise came first, cheeks pink. Auntie, I'm sorry, she whispered, but I patted her hand. Sit, eat, watch. Elvira slid in with a nod, clocked the room in a blink, and took a corner chair where she could see everything. Ruth brought me a tiny poinsettia. For your table, she said, voice like a safe place. Then Mark and Tessa. He looked tired. She looked polished, tight smile you could set a watch by. Nora, she sang, what a surprise. We're so glad you wanted to... I hugged my son and kissed his cheek. Sit down, baby. To her, just a nod. My restaurant host closed the door with a clean click. That sound was a curtain falling. We ordered simple. Soup, salad, iced tea. I let them chat a minute, let Tessa steer small talk like a tour guide on a bus I wasn't on. Then I tapped my spoon against my glass, soft, and put the tin on the center cloth. This is the tin I brought last week, I said. You served my bars at your mother's and told folks you baked them. Tessa laughed, too bright. Oh, Nora, we reused the tin? I flipped it and showed the sunflower sticker. Ruth leaned forward. Denise sucked air. Elvira didn't blink. I wasn't looking for apologies. I was laying the first tile. Next, I set my phone on the table and swiped to the grocery list screenshot. This line hitched a ride on Mark's note, I said. Make sure your mom doesn't drop by. I want it seamless. Mark flinched like a dog near a slammed door. Tessa said, draft. Again, but her voice dragged. The word had lost its shine. Sweetheart, Elvira said, calm as old wood. That's not a draft. That's a direction. I didn't push. I placed. Here, I said, turning to Denise. The cozy crowd chat. My name missing, 12 chairs full. Denise's eyes watered. I thought you were busy, she whispered. That was the story, I answered. Stories ain't the truth just 'cause they're tidy. The waiter brought salads. The room smelled like lemon dressing and fresh cut. I let forks move for a minute. Then I set down 3 place cards from my purse. Truth in front of Ruth, fitting. Pattern in front of Elvira, she smiled. And courtesy right in front of Tessa. I kept one more card in my pocket. Boundaries. Warm as it felt in my hand. That one was mine to keep. Tessa's smile went thin. This is... theatrical. Baby? I said. Sweet as tea left in the sun. I tried the quiet way for years. Y'all didn't hear me. So I'm speaking in centerpieces. Denise choked on a laugh. Mark stared at his fork like it had answers. Then came the gaslight's last flare. Nora, you told me you had other plans, Tessa said, tone even, firm. I held her eyes. Look at your phone. Show me the invite. She fiddled, scrolled. Showed nothing. Ruth cleared her throat. If it ain't there, it ain't there. That line landed like a gavel. I could have hauled out every slight, but cruelty isn't a dump truck. It's a scalpel. I turned to Mark. Son, I love you. This woman is running point on cutting me out. That's her choice. My choice is what happens next. He swallowed. What do you mean? I slid a key across the table, his copy to my house. Return that today. Door's changing. Tessa jolted. Nora! I raised a hand. You don't get a vote here. I looked at Denise. You've always been kind to me. Eat. You're safe. To Ruth, a nod. To Elvira, a look that said thank you for being my level. Then I did the part that stings. I took the pecan-bar plate and set it gently in front of Tessa. Since you love to put your name on my work here, own this. Tell the room who baked it. The silence turned crisp as a cracker. She stared. Her jaw twitched. You did, she whispered. Say it plain, I said. Nora baked these, she forced out, cheeks blotchy. Good girl, Ruth muttered, not kindly. I stood, slid the last card, boundaries, into my purse and smiled. Lunch is paid. Door is closed. Narratives, too. I opened the room to a hallway full of mirrors and walked out slow, letting them see themselves from every angle as I went. Next move, I stopped being their secret and become their consequence. I woke up mean calm, the kind that doesn't shout, it just moves furniture. First stop, the locksmith. He whistled at my old deadbolt. Ma'am, this thing is from the Carter years. Sweetheart, I said, so am I, and I still work. New keypad, smooth click, fresh code that isn't Mark's birthday or anybody's anniversary. When the door shut and sealed, the house exhaled like it finally trusted me again. Mark texted, I'll bring the key. Good. I set a porcelain dish on the hall table with a little note. Leave here. Not angry, not pleading. Procedure. He showed at noon, eyes tired. Tessa stayed in the car, engine running like she owned the street. He held out the key. I pointed to the dish. Clink. Mom, this feels harsh. It feels safe, I said. There's a difference. He looked past me, trying to see the old softness. I let him see the new spine instead. He tried the script. Tessa wants to apologize. Porch is neutral, I said. She can come stand on it like any neighbor. We both looked at the car. She didn't budge. The engine hummed, petty and low. I handed Mark a manila envelope, 3 pages, all neat. Grocery list screenshot with her note. Cozy crowd member list with the names highlighted. A photo of the pecan tin sunflower sticker in his mother-in-law's kitchen. Facts, I said. No fighting words, just proof. Keep them or don't. But don't call me forgetful again. He swallowed. I didn't know about the chat. Buddy, you didn't look. He left quiet. I watched the car roll away, Tessa staring straight ahead like a mannequin with feelings. Cool. Next move. I pulled out a storage tub. I'd labeled rescues back when I still thought I was saving us. The quilt I'd sewn for the baby, unused. Plant shadow crease on one corner. The engraved wooden spoon from Mark's first apartment. A stack of recipes Tessa borrowed and never returned. I laid them on my table one by one like naming saints. Then I took out a bright folder. Receipts. Crib I bought when they couldn't swing it yet. Movers I covered when theirs no showed. Groceries I stocked when they claimed the fridge died. I wasn't billing anybody. I was settling with myself. I wrote in my little notebook, no more invisible tabs, underlined it twice. Elvira popped by with lemon bars and that look that says I won't ask unless you want me to. How'd lunch go? Like a mirror, I said. She nodded, pleased. You ready for the thunder part? Honey, I said, I am the storm. We went through the folder together, not to prep a courtroom, but to rehearse my spine. She helped me draft 3 tidy texts. No spice, all signal. To Mark. Door code changed. You are welcome here. Come alone when you're ready. To Tessa. Porch is neutral ground. No drop-ins. Request text first. To Denise. I'm fine. Please don't carry stories for me or them. Send, send, send. Felt like taking off tight shoes. Afternoon, I made one more move that hit where Tessa lives, in the image. Not online, not messy, old school. I boxed up the sunflower tin, the cozy crowd screenshot printed on plain paper, and the place card that said courtesy. On top, I set a note in my neat teacher hand. Credit matters. So do chairs. I delivered it to her mother's doorstep and rang the bell. When the door cracked, I smiled Sunday sweet and walked back to my car without a single extra word. Let that box hum in their living room like a small, necessary earthquake. Evening brought the spin attempt. Tessa texted a paragraph that used misunderstanding, tone, and overwhelmed like seasoning salt. I answered with one line, I won't argue facts, then nothing. My silence wasn't empty. It was a wall. I made soup, turned on the radio, and laid my last card on the table. Boundaries, just to look at it. Tomorrow I do one more thing. Stop underwriting their life. Not a court move, a Nora move. The auto grocery order I kept for their house? Canceled. The monthly just-in-case transfer to Mark? Paused. The spare credit card Tessa used for emergencies? Hello, boutique heirloom quilt? Cut, and the bank flagged. Not revenge by law. Just me taking my name off places where it bought me erasure. I slept easy again. In the quiet, I could finally hear my own weather. Clear, cold, bright. I don't do online mess. I do real rooms. The church toy drive was open to anyone with $10 and a heart, so I put on my Sunday steady face and showed up with Elvira and Ruth flanking me like bookends. Tessa was co-chair, wearing a sparkly sweater and that pageant smile. Mark hovered, eyes darting like a deer who's met a fence. I'd called ahead, respectful, and paid for 50 hot plates in the kitchen, tagged sunflower seats. The usher nodded when he saw me. Ma'am, we set 'em aside like you asked. Good. 2 folding chairs at the front held place cards I wrote myself. Grandma and courtesy. Not petty, precise. Tessa grabbed a mic. Welcome, everyone. So grateful to our volunteers. I walked right up to the hospitality table and set down the sunflower tin, shiny as a confession. Before we dig in, I said, medium voice that carries, quick credit check. Heads turned. Mark stiffened. Tessa's smile flickered. I popped the lid and set out my pecan bars. These got called homemade by Tessa last week. Cute story. My sticker says otherwise. Soft laughter rolled through like a breeze that knows your business. I held the tin up so the sticker winked. Tessa reached for grace. Nora, it's a misunderstanding. Elvira, sweet as pie, said, Baby, misunderstandings don't come with labels. Ruth just folded her arms and watched. I slid a plain manila folder onto the table and pulled one printed sheet. No names, no numbers, just the cropped line. Make sure your mom doesn't drop by. I want it seamless. I didn't say who wrote it. I didn't need to. I set it beside the tin like salt next to Pepper. The room went quiet in that smart way, like when a teacher holds up a test key. You want to do this here? Tessa hissed, smile still stapled on. No, ma'am, I said calm. I'm doing it anywhere you tried to erase me and call it love. Mark stepped forward. Mom, please, he begged low. I looked at him, my boy, and then at the 2 front chairs with their cards. 2 sunflower seats, I said into the mic the usher slid my way. One says grandma. One says courtesy. If your table don't have both, it ain't family. It's theater. The pastor, God bless his spine, cleared his throat. Credit and chair count matter, he said gently. Let's keep our hearts right. He knew exactly what was happening. Half the room did too. Then I did the part that stings. Kitchen, I called, and the door swung. 2 servers rolled out the hot plates. I lifted the lid on the first pan. Steam and real comfort hit. I paid for these, I said, still even. 50 plates. Was gonna gift 'em to this event. Instead, they're going to the shelter down the block in honor of elders who keep getting told stay home. People murmured. Not outrage, respect. Tessa flushed. You're trying to embarrass me, she whispered. No, honey, I said. I'm placing my kindness where it gets a chair. I nodded at the usher. He wheeled the food toward the door. A little line of teens followed, grinning like they'd been asked to do a heist for good. That's not illegal. That's called a reroute. Tessa grabbed the mic back. Let's get back to Joy, she chirped, voice wobbling. No drama today. I smiled at the room. Drama is what people shout when truth walks in. Denise, red-eyed at the back, gave me a small thumbs up like a secret handshake. I turned to Mark. Son, you can stand anywhere you want. With me, with her, with yourself. But you won't stand on my neck again. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked at the cropped line, the tin, the 2 front chairs. You could see the math finally click. He reached for the grandma card and set it dead center on the main table, pushing 2 influencer friends' purses aside. That sound, a cardboard whisper, was louder than any sermon. Tessa went rigid. Put that back, she snapped. Mark didn't. The room watched the strings snap between them, soft as floss, final as steel. She turned to me, eyes glass. You're cruel. I tilted my head. I'm accurate. I picked up the second card, courtesy, and handed it to the pastor. Keep this for the hall, I said. Tape it to the serving table year-round. He nodded, eyes kind, like he'd been waiting on someone to bring the word. I took the mic one last time. Merry Christmas, I said, smooth. If you ever need a seat at my table, ask. If you ever try to hide me again, don't. I set the mic down, tucked my tin under my arm, and walked out with Elvira and Ruth sliding beside me like guardrails. Outside, the winter sun hit hard and clean. Behind me, chairs scraped, people adjusted, the room recalibrating, around a chair that finally had a name. Now for the fallout, where the shine cracks and the truth sticks. Mark showed up at dusk, with a bag of my things he'd accidentally kept, measuring cups, a pie plate, the quilt I made, still folded like a hostage. The sky was bruised purple. The porch light hummed. He stood on the lower step like he was visiting a teacher after school. Mom, he said, voice worn, today was rough. I held the door halfway. Rough is stepping on a truth barefoot, I said. Come in or don't, but don't bring fog. He came in. The house smelled like lemon oil and soup. He set the bag down and rubbed his neck. Tessa says you ambushed her. I poured tea. Tessa says whatever keeps Tessa center stage. I slid him the quilt. I made this for a baby, not a shelf. He stroked the seam with one thumb. She said it didn't fit the palette. I looked him dead on. Love is not a palette. He blew out a breath. People talked after you left. Pastor said we should mind our credits. Good man. Tessa's mom was mad. He winced. About the food. I sipped. Bless her heart. He paced once, twice. I didn't know about the cozy crowd, he said, small. Didn't look, I said, steady. That's on you. He nodded, shame hot in his cheeks. What do you want me to do? I tapped the table. Choose your weather. But hear me, I'm done being the umbrella you forget in the lobby. His phone buzzed. He flipped it and turned it face down like it burned. She wants me home. Then go, I said. I'm not your leash. I'm your mother. He reached for me, then stopped like he'd hit glass. Am I still welcome? Alone, I said. Always. He left with eyes like rain. The door clicked soft. The quiet after had a taste. Clean, a little salt. I took out my bright folder and did the part that can't be undone. I called the bank and closed the emergency card that fed her boutique habit. I logged into the grocery app and canceled the standing order that kept their pantry full, just in case. I set a stop on the monthly transfer labeled Bridge. Not punishment, parole revoked. My name was not a subsidy for my own erasure. Then I made something new that would live longer than this mess. I pulled a fresh notebook and wrote across the first page, sunflower seats, a fund. Not fancy, not lawyers. A jar at church, a line in the bulletin, a simple pledge, hot plates and a chair for any elder who keeps getting told, stay home. Elvira came by with ribbon. We glued the sunflower sticker on a clear box until it gleamed. Let them see it, she said. let them feel it. We set it in the narthex where every busybody and do-gooder could drop a bill and a little guilt. Cruel, maybe. Effective? Oh, baby. By morning, the phones had done their rounds. Not my doing, rooms talk. Denise texted, "Half the hall is Team Sunflower." Ruth reported that the pastor asked Tessa to step down from co-chair until she finds her footing. That wasn't my ask, but it landed sweet as a good hymn. Tessa put up a chirpy post about taking a wellness pause. No names, no blame. But I recognize a spin cycle when I hear the drum. Around noon, she showed on my porch at last, winter bright eyes and a scarf tied like armor. She didn't step over the threshold. "I want to talk," she said. "Porch is neutral," I said. "Use your words," she swallowed. "You humiliated me." I lifted a shoulder. "I credited me." Her gaze flicked to the new keypad, to the smooth door that did not care for her fingernails. She leaned in, whisper sharp. "You're petty." "No," I said soft. "I'm precise." She tried one last squeeze. "If you keep this up, people will think you're difficult." I smiled with all my teeth. "Good. Difficult is how doors stay shut." She flinched. "Mark's hurting," she said, real for half a second. My throat tugged. "Then love him better," I said. "Starting with the truth." Her jaw set. "You're out of line." I nodded at the sidewalk. "So are you." She left in a blur of perfume and pride. I watched the street settle back into itself. Mailman whistling, dog 2 doors down doing his patrol, sky a bright cold blue. Inside, I tied up one more loose thread. I boxed the costly heirloom quilt I bought when they couldn't swing it and dropped it at the shelter with a note. For a baby who needs warmth, not branding. The director hugged me so hard my ribs sang. That night, Mark called from outside their house. I could hear the dishwater, a stiff silence. "Mom," he said, voice raw, "I told her the seat stays." "At every table." My eyes stung. "Good," I said. "Stand there." He went quiet, then, "I love you." "I know," I said. "Act like it." I set a single plate for dinner and ate slow, soup steam fogging my glasses, radio low. The house felt taller, like it stood up with me. Some doors don't close soft. Some doors lock and teach the hand that used to grab the knob. Tomorrow I finish it clean, and it won't be pretty. I finished it the next day, clean as a new blade. I set my table for 12 and left one chair naked by the window with a place card that said, "Courtesy." The house smelled like onions and butter. Elvira tied yellow ribbons around the napkins. Ruth set out water glasses that caught the winter light. On the hall table, in plain sight, I laid 3 simple slips. One bank text printed, card ending, 27 deactivated. One grocery app screen, auto order canceled. One donation receipt, 50 hot plates rerouted to shelter. Not bragging, documentation. I don't swing. I stack. Neighbors came, some family, a few elders from church who always get the "we're keeping it small" call. They walked in like they'd been thirsty. Mark arrived alone, hair messy, eyes soft. He carried a box. Inside, the co-chair binder Tessa made, my measuring cups, the baby quilt I sewed, washed and folded. He set the box down and put his hand on the chair labeled Grandma, then looked at the naked one by the window. "It stays empty?" he asked. "Until someone earns it," I said. He nodded like a man who finally found north. The doorbell rang. Tessa on my porch again. No coat, glitter sweater, jaw set. She eyed the crowd behind me like a cat left on the wrong side of the door. "We need to talk," she said. "On the porch," I said. "Or not at all." She stood straight as a yardstick. "You're splitting the family." "Baby," I said. "You drew the line." "I put a fence on it," she tried sugar. "I'm sorry." "If you felt excluded?" I smiled with no teeth. "That's not an apology. That's a trick mirror." Her hand flicked toward the living room. "People are watching." "Good," I said. "Witnesses help the truth stand up." She leaned in low and sharp. "You made me look like a user." I tilted my head toward the hall table. "The paper made you look like yourself." I handed her a small box I'd prepped. The sunflower tin, one printed crop of her, "Make sure your mom doesn't drop by," and a blank place card. On the card I'd written in pencil, one word, "try." She stared like it might bite. I pointed to the keypad. "That code won't open for you," I said, soft. "Not today. Maybe not again. You can bring truth to my porch any time. The rest, nope." Her face worked through 10 poses, then landed on fury. "You're cruel." "I'm accurate," I said, and closed the door to the exact click I paid for. Inside, the room had paused, not judging, just learning. Mark stood with both hands on the table like a man bracing in weather. "I told her," he said to nobody and everybody, "that the grandma chair stays. At every table." Denise wiped tears and laughed at herself. Ruth pushed a bowl toward an elder who'd never been invited before. Elvira caught my eye and gave the tiniest nod. The world didn't break. It rearranged. We ate, not fancy, soup, cornbread, the last of my pecan-bars that still tasted like backbone. People talked soft, listened hard. After dessert, I pulled out a simple jar with a sunflower sticker. "Sunflower seats," I said. "If you ever see an elder getting told to stay home, drop a bill and call me. We'll send a plate and a chair with their name on it." I didn't look at Mark. I didn't need to. He was already reaching for his wallet. When the house quieted, I walked that naked chair to the front hall and faced it toward the door, a sentinel. I slipped my little notebook into the drawer beneath it and wrote a final line. No more invisible tabs. No more ghost invites. No more borrowed names. I closed the drawer and felt the whole house stand taller, like it had bones again. Later, I washed dishes by hand, radio low, winter moon on the sink. The keypad blinked its small green eye, loyal as a guard dog. My phone buzzed once, Pastor. Sunflower Fund approved for the bulletin. Another buzz, shelter. Your quilt found a baby. I breathed in that good kind of tired that smells like soap and victory. This wasn't court. This wasn't cops. This was consequence. Credit given, chairs counted, doors that answer to me. I didn't ruin anyone. I just stopped letting them ruin me. I turned off the light, touched the chair card that said Grandma, and sat down in my own house like it finally knew my name. Watch next. Pick a video on screen. And hit subscribe. Thank you so much, guys, for your support. Comment your name with your city. I will give you a shout out in next video.